We're told that American food is a melting pot, a lucky accident of different cultures coming together. History makes it seem that the American culinary industry just naturally evolved into the billion-dollar empire that we see today. They tell us that the founding fathers and corporate brands were the masterminds behind some of our favorite flavors and recipes, but that is a whitewashed myth. The real recipes weren't discovered, they were stolen from black chefs. For Black America, the kitchen isn't just a place of service, it is a laboratory of history and experimentation. While the mainstream tried to erase the black architects, chefs like James Hemings and John Young were outsmarting a system to build the foundation of American foods. So join us today for a compilation of my videos about the chefs that created American cuisine. And if you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemikehistory.com. But without further ado, let's get started. Thomas Jefferson was a founding father in the United States, but he was also a plantation owner and over his lifetime owned over 600 enslaved individuals. At his peak, he owned 140 enslaved individuals at his Monticello estate, one of these being the Hemings family. The intricate relationship between the Hemings lineage and Thomas Jefferson is predominantly traced back to Jefferson's union with Martha Waylands. This marriage brought the Hemings family into Jefferson's life, primarily as part of the estate that he inherited from Martha's father, John Waylands. The connection between Martha and the Hemings extends beyond mere ownership. They share a common parental lineage through Elizabeth Hemings, who was an enslaved woman who was enslaved by Waylands and bore several of his children. This shared ancestry ties Martha and Hemings together through bloodlines and bondage. Within this complex relationship, James Hemings and Sally Hemings stand out as central figures embodying the deeply intertwined destinies between the Hemings family and Thomas Jefferson. James Hemings was born in 1765. He was one of the children of John Waylands. This familial link thus made him Jefferson's brother-in-law when Martha was married to Jefferson. Despite the constraints of his enslaved status, Hemings was able to carve out a niche for himself within the hierarchical structure of the Monticello estate, particularly through his refinement and expertise of his culinary talents. His sister, though, Sally Hemings, is the more widely recognized due to her complex relationship with Thomas Jefferson. After Martha Jefferson's demise, there was a lot of conjecture concerning the intimate relationship between Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson. These allegations suggested that Jefferson fathered several of Hemings' children, and the emergence of DNA evidence in 1998 led credence to the assertion that Jefferson likely fathered at least one, if not all, of Sally Hemings' children. But that's a story for another day. James Hemings, though, from his youth, exhibited a proficiency for literacy, which was rare given the prevalence of anti-literacy statutes that prohibited the education of enslaved individuals. Thomas Jefferson recognized Hemings' potential and chose to cultivate it, driven not by benevolence, but by a desire to increase the value of his enslaved property. This investment exhibited extraordinary culinary talents and remarkable use of his acquired skills despite the constraints of his bondage. Jefferson, recognizing his talents, when James was 19, he embarked on a significant journey from Boston to Paris with Thomas Jefferson and his sister Sally. Following Jefferson's appointment as America's trade minister in 1784, Jefferson facilitated his apprenticeship under esteemed chefs at the Chateau de la Chantilly, a culinary establishment that was unparalleled in its reputation during the 18th century. This apprenticeship was a privilege seldom afforded to even the local French population, providing Hemings with a comprehensive education in the intricacies of French cuisines, from pastry making to the art of sauce preparation and the nuances of kitchen management. While in Paris, James was appointed as the chef of cuisine at Jefferson's private home, the Hotel d'Anjac, where he supervised a kitchen team, including white servants. This contrasted greatly with his life in America, Despite earning half of what the previous chef made, James managed to impress everyone with his skillful blending of French and American techniques, resulting in unique cuisine. He also used a part of his wages to hire a tutor and learn French. James and Sally would soon discover that a French law allowed slaves to seek freedom upon stepping on French soil. Still, they didn't take advantage of this law, possibly because they wanted to avoid being separated from their family back in the United States. In 1789, the Hemings siblings and Thomas Jefferson traveled from France back to America, specifically to Jefferson's Monticello estate. While in America, Hemings worked as Jefferson's personal chef and received wages for his work. As the national government moved around in what would become the United States of America, so did Jefferson and Hemings. They lived in New York City for a time, with Hemings running the kitchen there, and Philadelphia in 1791. Hemings put his culinary skills to use. Using the knowledge he gained in France, Hemings brought French culinary techniques to create uniquely American foods. It was during this time, while residing in Philadelphia, a state where slavery was abolished, that James initiated negotiations with Thomas Jefferson for his emancipation. Recognizing his culinary prowess, Jefferson consented to his manumission with a condition: he had to pass on his cooking expertise to another enslaved individual. Hemings handpicked his younger brother Peter for this role. This choice fulfilled two desires. First, he would finally be free, and secondly, it would help his brother Peter lead a better life under the circumstances. For 2 years, Hemings taught Peter everything he knew about cooking, so Peter could continue to make meals at the Jefferson estate. In 1796, when he was 31 years old, Jefferson finally signed his emancipation papers, and Hemings had a chance to start a new life. Now a free man, Hemings faced the daunting task of making his own way in 18th century America. He left the Jefferson estate of Monticello and settled in cities like Philadelphia and Baltimore, where he lived among other free blacks and worked as a professional chef. Despite his liberty and his impressive culinary skills, his freedom did not shield him from the realities of 18th century America. Unfortunately, there are only a few records to shed light on his experiences after he was set free. But what we do know is that in a strange twist of fate, Hemings found himself once again in a dialogue with Thomas Jefferson. When Jefferson requested Hemings' service for a second time, Hemings responded through Francis Sayers, another chef who he had worked with in New York and Philadelphia. Hemings indicated that he was willing to work with Jefferson, but felt uncomfortable about the prospect of working with unfamiliar servants. He asked Jefferson to write him directly, outlining the terms and conditions of the job offer. While Jefferson never wrote back, Hemings did briefly work at Monticello for about a month and a half in the kitchen, earning about $30 before moving on. The trajectory of James Hemings' life took a dark turn in 1801 when he died under very curious circumstances. It's widely believed that he committed suicide, and the factors that would compel him to take his own life were completely speculative. It's postulated, though, that his personal adversities, possibly including being ostracized from his family and the challenges of navigating a prejudiced society, might have overwhelmed him in his final years. James Hemings had a profound effect on American cuisine, and one of his biggest achievements was just introducing foods like ice cream, mac and cheese, creme brulee, and French fries to America. He brought back many recipes from France and added his own spin using ingredients that he could find here in the States. For example, the classic mac and cheese is linked to a similar dish in France called macaroni pie. He then made his own version in America, and it became popular when his brother Peter served it at a state dinner in 1802. Hemings also had a knack for making sweet treats. He used vanilla, sugar, cream, and an egg yolk to make fancy but extremely hard to make ice cream that was a big hit at Jefferson's parties. Another French dish that he brought back to American tables was French fries. Hemings tasted those in France, tweaked the recipe to make his own American version, and added it to the menu in Monticello. Jefferson started promoting them, and French fries became a popular dish all over the country. Beyond specific dishes, Hemings' broader influence lies in his role in blending French and culinary practices with American ingredients. This fusion approach laid the groundwork for what is now being celebrated as American cuisine, a melting pot of various techniques from other countries and traditions. Hemings proved that American dishes could possess the refinement and complexity of European cuisine while celebrating the local ingredients and tastes. Hemings, who spoke both French and English, left behind important notes to help us learn more about his legacy beyond his cooking skills. These documents found at the Library of Congress include a list of kitchen tools, his own handwriting, and some recipes that he had created. They show us that Hemings was a very talented chef and offer us a glimpse into his fascinating life. Today, Hemings is finally getting the recognition that he deserves for his impact on American cuisine. His influence is being showcased at exhibits and at food events that honor his memory and celebrate his role in shaping early American cuisine. This new understanding goes beyond his knowledge and his cooking abilities, and it's a meaningful tribute to all the enslaved individuals like Hemings, whose contributions to American culture often go ignored and forgotten. The buffalo wing is an iconic American food that has enjoyed a mediocre rise since its inception in the later half of the 20th century, characterized by its spicy and tangy, often served with celery sticks and blue cheese dressing. It's become a staple of American cuisine. The history, however, is rich and varied and cannot be attributed to a single individual or a moment, but rather a cultural shift and a profound appreciation for casual, flavorful, deep-fried food. The allure of buffalo wings can be attributed to a couple of factors: the unique flavor, the versatility, and the communal dining experience they promote. The wings are doused in hot sauce that is both tangy and spicy and appeals to a wide range of palates and has inspired countless variations and adaptations across the globe, from mild to blistering hot to sweet to savory. Adaptability of the buffalo wing caters to an array of taste preferences and fosters its own widespread popularity. Additionally, buffalo wings are celebrated for their versatility. They are favorite choice for various occasions, from casual gatherings at sports bars to home parties to everything in between. The food item effortlessly crosses the boundaries between high-end cuisine and street food, with the casual nature of eating buffalo wings often with one hand that makes the dining experience even more engaging and informal. And lastly, another reason for their popularity is the sense of community and camaraderie that it inspires. Typically, they're served in large portions meant for sharing. They encourage communal eating, making them popular choice at sporting events, family gatherings, and social outings. This aspect of sharing togetherness taps into a fundamental human experience. When it comes to the history of buffalo wings, it centers around the Anchor Bar, a family-owned restaurant in Buffalo, New York. However, a equally vital but lesser known contributor to the development of the buffalo wing comes with an African-American restaurateur by the name of John Young. Chicken wings have had its place in both restaurants and home cooking for years. In Buffalo, the oldest establishment to serve chicken wings is the Clarendon Hotel. A copy of the hotel's menu dates back to July 1st, 1857, and lists an entire entree of chicken wings fried. In addition to this menu, Cynthia Van Ness, the director of the Library and Archives at Buffalo's History Museum, also found a recipe for chicken wings that dates back to 1894 issue of the Buffalo Commercial Advertiser. But the common narrative around the invention of the buffalo wing is with Teresa Bellismo, the co-owner of the Anchor Bar, in 1964. According to the story, Teresa concocted the dish one night as a late-night snack for her son and his friends, finding themselves with an excess of chicken wings, as this part of the chicken at the time was largely used for either stock or thrown away. She decided to deep fry them and toss them in cayenne pepper hot sauce that she had on hand and serve them alongside celery slices and blue cheese dressing. It was an immediate hit and eventually became a staple at the bar and spread across the United States. But chicken wings were not just an entree in Buffalo, New York. By the 1960s, a Washington, D.C. restaurant named Wings and Things was serving chicken wings in Mumbo sauce. The sauce has its roots in Chicago, but has since become very closely related to Washington, D.C. This may have inspired John Young to begin serving his wings in mumbo sauce at his similarly named restaurant, Wings and Things, in Buffalo. Young moved to Buffalo from Alabama and began serving breaded chicken wings in his own special mumbo sauce around the mid-60s. His restaurant was called John Young's Wings and Things, and this was around the same time that the Bellismo family claimed to have invented buffalo wings. Unlike chicken wings at the Anchor Bar that were covered in a vinegar-based cayenne hot sauce and served without breading, John Young's were different. His version of chicken wings were larger, breaded, and coated in a thick tomato-based sauce. This was Young's own special concoction, and he referred to his wings as Mumbo wings and served them at his restaurant, Jefferson Avenue in Buffalo, New York. Now, it's unclear when exactly Young opened his restaurant in Buffalo. Although he applied for a restaurant license for Wings and Things in 1966, interviews with Young and former customers indicate that he most likely was selling food under that name long before he applied for a license to do so. In any case, Young's restaurant became known for serving breaded whole wings in mumbo sauce. Early media coverage around buffalo wings predominantly featured Frank and Teresa Bellismo. In 1972, the Buffalo Evening News published an article highlighting buffalo wings served by the couple, propelling them into the national spotlight. This exposure led to a feature in Associated Press article, a cooking show appearance, and most notably a 1980 article in the New Yorker by Calvin Trillin. Trillin's piece, however, introduced a counter-argument by John Young, who had challenged the Bellismo's claim to the invention of the buffalo wing. Young had relocated to Illinois in 1970. When he came back almost a decade later to Buffalo, he was shocked by the proliferation and marketing of buffalo wings. Specifically, he was surprised by the Anchor Bar claiming to have invented the dish when he believed that Frank Bellismo had been inspired by him. Young stated that I was selling 5,000 pounds of chicken wings in 1962, and Mr. Bellismo used to come into my place and eat my wings. Young's assertion of his pioneering role in the buffalo wing led to some recognition for him being the inventor of the buffalo wing, but the damage was mostly done. By the 1970s, restaurants in Buffalo began to feature their own version of wings, which adhered to the Anchor Bar's recipe of frying the wings, breaking them into drumlets, and tossing them in hot sauce. Commonly, these wings were accompanied by sides, such as blue cheese dressing or celery sticks, but nevertheless, some establishments sought to innovate how they served these wings. Some places would serve them with pizza. By the 1980s, Buffalo-style wings began to permeate restaurant menus outside of Buffalo, New York, marking their ascension to American cuisine. The inception of Buffalo Wild Wings, initially called Buffalo Wild Wings and Rec, in 1982 in Columbus, Ohio, would underscore this expansion. As buffalo wings continued to proliferate nationwide, they became increasingly synonymous with American sports culture, especially football and the Super Bowl in particular, solidifying their status as the quintessential game day food. John Young would pass away in 1998, but in 2020, his daughter, Linda Brown Young, began to serve his father's chicken wing recipe on Buffalo Bike Tour's historical wing ride, which honors John Young as the king of wings. There have been some recent efforts to sought to amend this historical oversight by acknowledging Young's contribution. Culinary historians and food writers, along with the Buffalo community, have aimed to ensure that Young's legacy is preserved. This includes coverage and articles and documentaries that highlight Young's innovative role in the significance of buffalo wings and bringing mumbo sauce to the local cuisine. Community leaders and historians in Buffalo have advocated for Young's deserved recognition, emphasizing the varied origins of the buffalo wings and celebrating the diversity of their contributions. These acknowledgments not only honor Young's legacy, but also enrich the local narrative of the buffalo wing, acknowledging the diverse origins and the contributions of African Americans to the national culinary landscape. In the heart of African American culinary traditions lies a rich tapestry woven with flavors, history, and resilience. It's a cuisine born from struggle and survival and tells a story far deeper than its delicious dishes. It's a story that stretches across continents and centuries, from bustling markets of West Africa to sprawling plantations of the American South. So join us today while we chronicle the history and legacy of soul food.
And if you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemichistory.com. And if you like audio-only episodes, you can find my podcast wherever you get your podcasts. But without further ado, let's get started. Soul food is more than a type of cooking. It is a symbol of Black culture. This cuisine traces its roots back to the agriculture and culinary traditions of enslaved Africans in the American South. It includes dishes like fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread, black-eyed peas, known for their comfort and rich flavors. Soul food is not only about providing nourishment, but is a symbol of community, cultural pride, and identity over generations. But beyond its taste, soul food has played a crucial role in American cuisine, influencing dining habits and spotlighting Black heritage. The recipes and techniques that they have been passed down through generations, each telling a story of adaptation and perseverance. As soul food spread from its southern origins, it became a cherished part of America's diverse culinary scene, inspiring chefs and food lovers everywhere. Let's start at the beginning. Born from West African culinary traditions, the staples of West African farming societies included grains, yams, legumes, vegetables, and some meats, elements that are closely aligned to soul food's basics. Western African regions had preferences for different starches, including rice, millet, sorghum, and yams. Fishing was crucial along the coast and interior rivers, contributing significantly to their diet. Traditional West African cooking methods included frying, smoking, baking with ash, roasting over a fire, and boiling in water, many of which are staples of soul food today. Seasoning pastes were commonly used to enhance the flavor and the color of meats and showcase the shared culinary practice between Western Africa and the Americas. Culinary knowledge was passed down orally since there was no written cookbooks before European contact, and the Columbian exchange, which brought Europe and Asia and the new world crops like maize and plantains to Western Africa, were skillfully incorporated to their already rich cuisine. So during the transatlantic slave trade, enslaved Africans would bring their culinary traditions with them to the Americas, laying the groundwork for what would become soul food. Their culinary framework was centered around savory sauces and stews served on top or with a starch, embodying a resilient and adaptive approach to cooking despite their harsh conditions. The basic diet of the enslaved was extremely limited. It often consisted of the 3 M's: meat, meal, or molasses, with corn serving as the staple crop. They creatively used the ingredients they had to produce nourishing meals, such as sweetening cornbread with molasses, which they would call long sweetened. And despite these limited rations and being provided the least desirable cuts of meat, the enslaved demonstrated resourcefulness by transforming their least desirable cuts into flavorful dishes. They mastered slow cooking techniques and used flavors like onions and garlic and peppers to tenderize tough cuts of meat while infusing them with rich flavors. This fusion of African culinary traditions with available ingredients and cooking methods from the Americas led to unique dishes reflective of their diverse cultural influences. For example, gumbo from southern Louisiana showcases African, French, Spanish, and Native American elements, with okra serving as a thickening agent akin to its use in Western Africa. The enslaved would often supplement their meager diets by foraging and hunting and tending to small gardens. Leafy green vegetables like collards and turnip greens provided essential nourishment, while black-eyed peas served as a crucial protein source. They also would introduce hot and spicy sauces and oils that would add depth and complexity to their meager meals. After the Civil War, newly emancipated African Americans adapted their traditional diets to the changing post-emancipation landscape. Many became sharecroppers and rent farmers, which influenced their access to food. Cornmeal became a staple used in cornbread and hush puppies, and often paired with collard greens. And again, with limited economic resources, they relied on inexpensive ingredients and less desirable cuts, such as those of chitlins and ham hocks. Pork would grow in prominence and become a mainstay through farming and hog butchering, practices. This post-war period allowed African Americans to reclaim their culinary heritage, with black-eyed peas, collards, and pork dishes become emblematic of their culture. As economic opportunities changed, it gradually led to the diversification of available food, and the black church would emerge as a central community hub where church gatherings and suppers became important social events where culinary skills were showcased and reinforcing traditions and strengthening communal ties. As black folks migrated out of the South, they carried their Southern cooking traditions nationwide, contributing to the establishment of a diverse range of culinary offerings. African Americans also started open restaurants and food businesses, utilizing their skills that they had developed during enslavement. They specialized in barbecue, fried chicken, and fried fish, which would solidify their place in African American culture. This movement sparked an evolution of soul food as these migrants adapted traditional soul food dishes to their new urban environments. Fish fries became popular in an area abundant with freshwater fish like the Great Lakes, while interactions with different ethnic groups introduced new techniques and new ingredients to the cuisine. The urban influence led to the development of down-home cooking, a culinary expression that helped African Americans maintain their connection to their roots. Street vendors and black-owned restaurants played an essential role in providing familiar Southern favorites, helping nurture a sense of community, while grocery stores began stocking Southern foods. So as we move forward into the civil rights movement, this is where you would see the emergence of the term soul food, infusing traditional Southern cooking with racial pride and political significance. This new label symbolized a step away from regional descriptors like Southern or down-home cooking, and instead fostered a sense of black solidarity. Soul food connected African American heritage to a broader culinary identity, and dishes like neck bones and chitlins and turnip greens and fried chicken not only became culinary staples, but icons of black pride and unity. Eating these foods became a form of edible black power that celebrated and affirmed black culture. However, soul food was not without its criticisms and challenges. Class divisions shaped the reception of soul food, as some wealthier black individuals often regarded soul food as merely a fad, referring to traditional terms such as down-home cooking. Black Panther Eldridge Cleaver criticized the idea of soul food being empowering, suggesting that it instead serves as a mocking slogan of the black bourgeoisie. Health concerns also arose due to the cuisine's high-fat, high-sugar, high-salt content, often linking it to poverty. Additionally, the commercialization and co-opting of soul food pose additional challenges. The innovation of African-American fine dining has sometimes mischaracterized it as inauthentic, while other restaurants that don't serve soul food staples are criticized. Media portrayals often confiscate the different aspects of black cuisine, with this legacy of being a slave food, raising questions of whether or not it perpetuates stereotypes. And soul food spread was also resisted by some conservative whites who saw it as the domain of black people or black people food. Yet, despite these challenges, the rise of soul food symbolizes cultural identity, pride, and resistance. And today, soul food stands at a bit of a crossroads, balancing its preservation with its rich heritage with the need to address modern health concerns. Its journey echoes the complex history and the cultural identity of African Americans, reflecting a connection to both its past and a vision for the future. The contemporary soul food scene is marked by simultaneous celebration of tradition and innovation. This movement emerges where upscale dining establishments reinterpret traditional African American dishes, blending nostalgia with modern culinary trends and health concerns. The health-conscious approach is increasingly prevalent as chefs and home cooks aim to reduce fat and salt content found in soul food. Some establishments have even moved away from the soul food label, opting a return to down home with things like down home healthy or even vegan soul to highlight their healthier options. The rise of vegetarian and vegan soul food further expands the accessibility of the cuisine while aligning it with broader plant-based diets. Contemporary soul food also embraces global influence and fusion cuisines. As Americans become more culturally diverse, chefs have incorporated flavors and techniques from other regions while honoring the spirit of soul food. Additionally, there is an emphasis on fresh, local, and seasonal ingredients and moving away from processed foods and inexpensive cuts that characterize earlier versions of these dishes. Soul food remains a powerful staple of the Black community and continues to showcase our ability to adapt and stay resilient, and in that way mimics the African American story as a whole. Thank you. This has been One My Black History. I'm your host, Country Boy. If you like stories like this, you can find more stories like this at onemikehistory.com. If you like audio-only episodes, you can find my podcast wherever you get your podcast. I'd like to thank all my financial contributors. Without you, none of this could be possible. I love you all. Peace.
Thank you. This has been One My Black History. I'm your host, Country Boy, and this is the story of the Black chefs that shaped American cuisine. I like this compilation album. I've amassed a bunch of videos, and I think it's nice to sometimes mash them together so that you can kind of see a total picture. I hope that you appreciated this. Of course, we're still working on new videos. I'd like to thank all my financial contributors, all my day ones, everybody that supports me. I love you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Check out my Substack. I create new content every single week, and peace.